here. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Those of you who want to talk about building, come on in. Those of you who want to have coffee, get on the other side of that door. Welcome to those of you who are streaming. We're glad that you're with us as well. I'll try and remember that when a question is asked, I'll repeat it so that you can hear, because I know I'm mic'd and they are not. I don't always remember, so I'm asking in advance for forgiveness. How about that? All right, before we begin, John Ike was just checking to make sure if anyone's in the coffee conference room to bring them on in. As you all know from all the announcements, I guess for the past, since May, whenever I'm in town, I'm in the coffee conference room to answer any questions and chat. We've had roomfuls and we've had just me alone. So as any questions arrive, come on in and let's have a cup of coffee. In my typical style, before we really get into what I have to say and what John has to share, are there any questions that you all are burning to know or know an answer to? So I'm sure to cover that. No questions that you're burning to know about. Betty personally had a question? What about the trees? I know, that's right. I talked about that in the announcements. What about the trees? I'll answer that. So the trees, I got it. All right, let's pray. The Lord be with you. Dear Jesus, we give thanks for our parish family, for the many ways we move through our faith journeys and seasons of life. And even in this season of resilience, we give thanks that you walk near with us in all of our decisions, in all of our to-dos, that in all we do, we might be a blessing to one another, bless the world, and love you. These prayers we offer through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. All right. Well, I had a presentation that I gave at annual meeting. We've had a lot of nuts and bolts, the pros and cons over the past months. But in that meeting, I wanted to share with you how we really do make decisions in church and how I make them as your rector through discernment, through really looking and seeing after all of the pros and cons are weighed, do we really see the Holy Spirit moving in this project? My discernment was yes. Every time we came up with a bump of resistance or trouble or problem, the right person came along at the right time. And in my faith journey, I've seen that as a truth, that when God really needs to get involved, someone is put in place to remind me of something or to push me to do something or to correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that's been true in all of the movement from when we began after Milton, up through the Storm Resilience Committee's discernment, to the vestry, to those months after when John Ike, as chair of the building committee, really came online and looking, can we get through, is this city going to let us do this? And other questions like that. And he's going to touch on some of those updates for you all. But I ended annual meeting by saying, through all of this, we are going to continue to focus on the fundamentals of Christian life. What is that? Baptizing, marrying, bearing, Sunday worship, and everything in between. And in doing that, we won't have the church that we know and love. That will be under construction. But we will have all of the spaces that we've used when we got zapped by Ian, when we got zapped by Milton, and when the pandemic was here. So we'll have a blend of worship here in the parish hall. We'll do some stuff outside, but it will all be very familiar to you all. Because you've done it before. That Sunday right after Ian, the bishop was in here, and we worshiped in the beauty of holiness. Some things to, I guess, get you ready. Because if I were you, I would have questions like, what is the music going to sound like? Where am I going to sit? What is it going to be like? So the clergy and staff are working on that. And even if you're a little anxious about it, just remember that we have been here before worshiping, and it's been beautiful. What we'll have this go-round, which we didn't have in previous worship in the parish hall, is the organ. So the organ that you hear in church, I think it was, who knows, Helene knows how much it cost. What is it, $60,000, $80,000 organ? It's a nice organ, but Tripp fondly calls it the toaster because it's an electronic organ. It doesn't have the beauty of a real pipe organ. With that console, where you see Tripp playing on Sundays, are 5 speakers. 4 of the speakers are up behind the pipes, so you think there's music coming from those pipes. There isn't. They're dead pipes. And then there is a subwoofer. Is it a subwoofer? A bass woofer. And that's the speaker that's on your right as you walk into the church on the ground. So, because we want worship in here to be as closely aligned to what you experience across the way in the church, we'll mount the 4 speakers on the wall over there, so it sounds like the organ's coming from behind you, just as ever. We're still working on where to put that subwoofer, but it'll probably be in the corner right there. And so, I guess I share that to say that already we're beginning to work on and understand what the experience will be like here in the parish hall for you all, because we want it to be beautiful. Baptisms, we'll keep doing those, right? And what's fun is a lot of the folks like to be baptized at that font right there, if you all have seen that one. And then burials, they'll be here in the parish hall as they come up, and the committals will be in the churchyard. So when we go to commit people to the ground, we will stop construction, and we will all go into the west churchyard or east churchyard, where we'll have continued access through the sides from the street, and we'll commit our loved ones to the ground. And then we'll come back here for, yes, you have a question.
Yeah, and pardon me for being way late to the party here.
Sure.
Day late, $1 short.
Well, let's hope not $1 short.
Could you give me like a thumbnail sketch of the question of why it can't be lifted?
Sure. Any other questions? That's the main.
How are we going to do it with the organ? Is the organ actually going to be taken apart and reassembled?
Okay, organ, elevation, why not lift instead of, okay. Any others? No. Okay. So, thumbnail sketch. Last year, more than a year, last fall, we established a storm resilience committee made up of, I don't know, six or so members from various different backgrounds, engineers, lawyers, accountants, priests, to look at how this church is going to move forward over the next 7,500 years. We'd experienced Ian. And when we experienced Ian, we kind of thought, well, Donna was in the 1960s, Ian was here, so let's just plan for the 60 years ahead. Then Milton came 2 years later, and what we realized is we needed to give it more creative thought. Let's not just rely on our own instincts, but what is really, if we really study this, what's the right answer? I mean, I think Naples was going through that same discernment. Many of you all had condos, and your condo associations were talking about it. I guess the city council was talking about it too. So a lot of conversations here in Naples about it. In that report, which I would commend to you because it has all the answers that you really are looking for, they looked at every possible idea that they could come up with, and we invited the whole congregation's thoughts too. What ideas are you hearing in your homeowners associations or wherever it may be? So they looked at doing nothing, putting up just temporary barriers, raising the existing church, and then of course the solution they came up with, which is to retire our current building and replace it. The reason why they went with the final idea was basically you can do a lot of things to fight the water, but many of them are losing battles, and none of them addressed wind. So the 1950s structure, it's not wind rated. The two close pieces in it, which really everybody paused on, was, can we build a fence, like an aqua fence, which we see? And again, that would not have done, there are a couple problems with that idea, but that wouldn't have done nothing to address the wind. The other one was, well, can we just save the existing building by, basically you would cut off the wall from about here, and you would put hydraulic jacks and jack it up. That doesn't address wind either. And when we looked at the numbers, it was going to cost roughly the same amount, without some of the abilities to adjust the design for like ADA accessibility, because we're going to have to meet all of the new code demands. And if you've ever been in the little powder room in the church, that's not ADA right. So given all of those different things, the Storm Resilience Committee recommended that we move forward with retiring and rebuilding. The vestry met with the Finance Commission, the Building Commission, and they unanimously approved that as well. And then we've been walking through this since. The organ. So the organ was damaged really beyond repair from Ian. And it got both flood and storm wind-related rain from above. So the pipes were wrecked from storm wind. The console was wrecked from flood. At that point, again, we were in the mode of, we had Donna, so let's just retrofit the church with a new organ. That would have required some substantial work to our building. Because you couldn't hold the weight of the organ in the current design of the balcony, and you couldn't tie in to the walls, because that structure really isn't as sound as a new structure could be, we would have to put columns in. And then because of the way the air handler is inside the steeple right above organ pipes, we would have to have a whole new HVAC system as well, to the tune of about $1 million. So that was a piece of the consideration too. In the new building, we can account for that. So rather than having to put columns in, we can support from above with steel because we have a stronger building. So that's the nutshell. Did I get everything right, everybody? I mean, we've been wrestling with this for a while. Yeah, no, sure. And again, everybody, I'm here, I'm here every day, really. But come and have a cup of coffee. If you have more questions, come and chat. It's easier for me to walk through those individual questions and really understand where you're coming from. But I'm happy to answer questions whenever. Okay, I got it, I think. Back to the fundamentals, I think I covered the Sunday worship, baptism, funerals, marriages. And marriages are sometimes, they're easier to handle because we can have those conversations with the bride ahead of time, right? Usually people plan their weddings a year or so out. So there's some ability for us to have conversations. And I've offered to we haven't had any people ask yet, but I've offered to go to the beach with them, right? I'll go to the beach and I'll marry you on the beach. You can have a perfect beach wedding and I'll help you. Or we can do it on the waterfront, or we can do it in here. So there are options to give the brides to be. The funerals are a little bit harder, right? I would want everyone to be buried in the church, but we'll get you committed in the West Churchyard as it should be. And we'll have a beautiful liturgy here. And this is where I'm reminded, I've heard priests say it, and growing up in New Orleans, I love that church building. But it is truth that the real church is all of us gathered together, and we'll do that. That's been a hard one for me, though. And, one of the good stories that I have is I went to go visit Mary Watkins. Does anyone know Mary Watkins? So some of y'all do. So Mary Watkins is one of the oldest members, a little over 100 at this point. She used to play the organ for the 7:30 service, and then she was the Right 3 pianist. She has some great stories, by the way, and our history folks have captured a lot of that. But I actually, and this is where I sometimes make mistakes, and I sometimes do things right. The Holy Spirit usually takes care of a lot of that. So for Mary, I was scared to death to go tell her that we were going to tear down this church. So I didn't. But there are a couple of you who go visit her and bring her the newsletter. And so she can't hear very well, but she reads, and her mind is all there. So I went to go visit her, and I walked in, and Mary said, "It's the right thing to do. Do you want me to write a letter?" And so she'd read, and so, every moment in life is a blessing, and it can change instantly. But in that moment, I had someone who has known and loved this church for probably, 75 years. And in that conversation, you talk about the Holy Spirit moving. That's one of those moments where I felt, okay, she's probably the most likely to die while this construction is going on. And if she gives me permission, that is meaningful. Church is, and the Episcopal Church does this well, and it doesn't do it well sometimes, but it's the balance of vestry and rector, lay and ordained, and we try and work through all of that together. Okay, so I want John to be able to chat because his stuff is very interesting and fun, but to tell, the trees, I need to do trees, and then I'm missing something. I had a piece of paper that I was going to show as a show and tell, but I don't have it. Shucks. Okay, let me do trees first. In all of the design of the church, as much as possible, we're retaining everything, right? The true gem of the church is in the architectural beauty. And I was by the Design Review Board the other week and got to share the story, which some of you all have heard me share as well. But the architect of our church, Howard Major was his name. He's from Palm Beach. And we love it, right? The Design Review Board said it's iconic. It's a Naples iconic image. Howard Major got his design from Trinity in Newport, Rhode Island. And Trinity Newport, Rhode Island was built by a builder who took all of his designs from Sir Christopher Wren, who was the architect for St. Paul's London, right? So the heritage of our design is very special, and we're going to keep that. The other piece that we've been very mindful of is how we use that space. So if any of you all stand outside where I do on Sunday mornings, you sort of look around, you'll see that people go into the west and east churchyards. Those are our memorial gardens where ashes are committed to the ground, and they go visit their loved ones, they say a prayer. And they move around in such a way where we need the transept doors to flow out still to the churchyards, and we need to be able to get up and around and in and back to the labyrinth. It all needs to work. So we've been very careful in the landscaping and in the hardscaping to make that happen. We know that one of the beautiful pieces of our church are those two ficus trees on either side. And you'll hear me say this at Easter and Christmas, that one of my favorite things is to see those families go out and take pictures in front of those trees where the kids are climbing up in the trees. It's just a moment of freedom and wonder. So if you look at the renderings, you'll see there's a retaining wall right behind those ficus trees so that we're not grading up and wrecking the trees. So as much as possible, those will be retained. Well, they will be. I mean, that's a priority. So that's the tree question. The other one are, and this is in church life, no matter how much we try to be mature Christians and really just be giving in everything, right, to give sacrificial love, we do like things sometimes the way we like them. That's okay, right? Episcopalians like to sit in the same place, same Sunday, and that is wonderful and holy. The two things that have come up, one is the pew cushions. So the blue pew cushions that you all sit on, the acoustician has said our sound in the church, especially for the sopranos, would be much better if we reduced the size of those cushions by like 2 inches. Now, I stick up for you all. I said, no, we're not going to have uncomfortable cushions. The next thing, and this goes into the new church, are the kneelers, right? And this is the most controversial thing that we're really going to have to figure out, is your current kneelers, I've been told, feel very penitential because your knees go straight through the foam and hit the wood. if we did things right, we would put some wool backing on top of the wood and then the foam to make for you all a more comfortable kneeler. So we'll see how much that cost, and then we'll make that decision. While we're away from our regular pews, we'll be in these chairs. Now, the story behind these chairs goes back to Canterbury Cathedral, and I was on a youth group pilgrimage with them. And these are the same kind of chairs in that cathedral. They're called How 44 chairs, because you can stack 40 in 4 feet or something. And there is a wonderful video on YouTube. You really should go watch it. I should send it out to everybody. But it's a leader in the cathedral going through why they chose the exact chair that they had. And it is a wonderful story of comfort, ease of stacking, utility. So, some of the reasons we don't have cushions on chairs in here is because cushions get soiled, right? That was our experience in the last set of chairs. But I am not without sensitivity. So we're going to see about some lumbar pillows for those of you who would really like to have a little bit more support. So if you have a strong opinion on how these chairs fit your body, come and talk, and we'll try and make that work for you. The other thing that we will do is, this is a thing for, I know I'm getting there, is they're meant to latch on the bottom. And so we'll start we don't latch those right now because it's more work for Chris. But in church, when you all get up, usually you grab onto something in front of you, and don't do that, by the way. But you do that, and so we'll try and have all these latched. So if you do reach out to pull yourself up, you're not pulling just one chair; you're pulling a whole row. So I share all these stories because, as a church staff, we're really working on it. Right? We want you to come and worship in the beauty of holiness, and everything we can do to make that happen, we'll do. Just be gentle with me. Yes? Sure. The question is, are we thinking about bringing 2 or 3 pews in here? The answer is yes, I have thought about that. And 2, a conditional, we will be redoing the pews. So the plan is to take them down to bare wood and redo them. The pews, the whole church building, and the design review board was pretty good with this. They said, our building has really been beat up. And it has. You all may not notice it as much as I do, but all the heat from when we dehumidified the church after the storms, it really hurt the wood. And the pews in the bottom, even though we got the water out really quickly, they took a little damage too. So we'll take those down and we'll redo them. That's the long way of saying, I want them redone. So if we put 4 in, when are those going to be redone? I just have to figure that out. But the idea would be to have pews on the side for people who could sit there. Why don't we just put the pews in? So I have gotten that question. The answer is there's no way to hold them down. You'd have to drill hole, you'd have to wreck this floor to do that. And then we would lose all of the flexibility to have Christmas market, luncheons, choral events, whatever we're going to do. So we're going to use the Canterbury chairs, and we're going to make it work. Yes. Right, will there still be the same number of services? The answer is yes, but. Someone teases me about that. I usually say yes, but. When we get into October through Easter, I'm worried about how to integrate waterfront worship and the regular 9 o'clock church service. What we did years ago to blend those is once a month we would really have the right 3 repertoire, the music that we tend to sing in that service during the principal service, during the 9 o'clock church service. So we'll probably do something like that, but it may well be that we do the inside service here and an outside service there at the same time. The problem with that really comes down to a few of you who give me consistent feedback that you hate it when I raise up the blinds. No one likes it. They all would like to look out at the water. So if we did a concurrent service outside, I would have to raise the blinds, and that might make some people unhappy. Any other? Yes, Joyce. So that's a good question. Acoustics, generally, when we had the acoustician come to look at the design for the church, we also had them come and examine this space and the coffee hour space, especially related to the interim, we're calling it the interim worship, right, and how that works. What will happen is when we're ready to make the move from church to parish hall, we'll have movers, the organ building company, I can't remember the vendor's name, he will come out and they'll move the organ, the speakers will go up, and then the speakers will be voiced. So that, because you can modify everything with the toaster organ. So that will be done. And there's some other things that we worked on with the acoustician, like actually it sounds best if the choir is over here. Because of the way the sound moves in the space. So you'll see that we've thought about as much of it as we can, and down to this microphone, which is new because the old one didn't work as well according to the acoustician design. So yes, we'll work on that. You like the microphone better? Yeah. I was laughing. I was reading an article about clergy burnout. And one of the things how clergy burn out is they're called to do like 70 things that they were never trained to do, right? So I was a lawyer. That works out well for construction because I was a construction lawyer. I went to a seminary that did Benedictine spirituality, so prayer is something that I can actually handle pretty well. But graphic design, audio, visual, all the other things, a little bit outside my wheelhouse. What I do like, though, is our vendor, Soft Trim, has been very good with us. And the acoustician, we've spent some money to get their recommendation, and we'll put it into place. Yes? I don't know if you read that from anything I put out. There has been discussion that our architect has heard about that eventually, they'll look at raising streets here in Naples. I mean, that's another conversation that's out there. I don't know enough about those conversations to respond fully. But someone was asking, are we going high enough? That's another question, and I'll let John answer that one in a second. But anything else for me before John takes over? Equal time. All right. John Ike, come on up. Let me introduce him. John Ike was part of the, he's junior warden, and he was part of the building committee that put together this parish hall for us. In addition to that, he has a background in engineering project management. He has helped this church rebuild, restore after both Ian and Milton. And when you talk about priests not having, all the things we do, people like John show up, and then they just do it. So thank you, John. Come on up.
Thank you, Father Edward. It's a privilege to serve as chair of the building committee. And speaking of the building committee, I'd like to just acknowledge the committee, which is really excellent. We have some members here, Catherine Morgan and Helene McGill and Mark Goebel. And ones that aren't here are Jay Morgeson and Mark Borelli. And Kim plays a vital role in the committee as well. And Father Edward really serves as our leader. And we appreciate that. Now I'm going to revert to my New Jersey upbringing, and I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly because We don't have a lot of time, but we do want to allow time for questions as well. So the overall status is the architectural design is about 80% complete. The things that aren't complete are the more engineering aspects, such as the structural, the HVAC, and the electrical. And they're, in the hands of the engineer, probably in the range of 50% complete, but that all will come together in an entire package. So overall, we're about 80% complete. Cost. The current cost estimate is $6.2 million for construction, plus or minus 10%. Now, that's been our cost estimate for the last couple of months. It makes no sense until we have more detailed drawings for the contractor to evaluate and to put out for quotes to try to refine that cost estimate. We think it's a pretty good estimate. The total project cost, because there's definitely cost other than just construction, are somewhere under that $10 million figure that we have been talking about for many months. Schedule. I was going to go into a lot of detail about the permitting process. Suffice to say that the permitting process is governing our schedule now. That is definitely on the critical path. And there's two real aspects to the permitting. Wow. Two aspects to the permitting, two broad chunks. One is the planning and zoning piece of it, and the other is the building permit part of it. The building permit part of it is straightforward, driven by the architect and the engineer. We know how to do that. The other part is a little more subjective and amorphous, and that's the planning and zoning piece. And I'll be happy to go into more detail about that if there are questions, but that's where we are now, and that's where I'm a bit concerned about our schedule start of, say, September of this coming year. We're still saying that it's still possible to meet that, but we've run into some challenges with the planning and zoning permitting, and that could actually extend the schedule just a bit in terms of our construction start. The actual construction of the church, we're still estimating to be 12 to 14 months once we start. And because we have these very detailed building committee meetings now covering so many of the details, we will be well prepared once we break ground to actually meet that schedule. I always like to talk about same versus different. Father Edward mentioned just about, everything will be the same, and it sure will. Our worship experience is going to be identical, I think. But let me get into a few more details. The same is everything, almost everything, including internal dimensions, colors, fabrics, etc. Different will be the site, of course, because we're raising it 4 feet, and now we have to adjust down to a street level that is staying where it is. So there will be grading, there will be retaining walls, all beautifully done and all very tasteful. And in my personal opinion, the church is going to look better 4 feet higher because it's going to be set off as something maybe special, very special. So my personal opinion, and I derive that from, looking at the renderings and just imagining it. Different will be in the narthex, the usher's room and the powder room are going to be flipped. I won't go into all the details. It has to do with ADA compliance, but as we walk in the future church, the restroom will be on the left-hand side, and the usher's room or usher's closet, if you will be on the right-hand side. Also different will be the internals in the tower, which most of us really don't have occasion to go up there, but because of mechanical, HVAC considerations, et cetera, making sure everything is fully updated, the new organ, the internals in the tower are going to be different than they are now. That's not going to affect how we worship or do things day to day. The floor tile will be similar. We're going to go for the same general look and feel, but in detail and perhaps color and hue, it will be slightly different. The organ, we're going to have the new organ, and there's going to be cabinetry around those pipes. It'll set those pipes off beautifully. There are renderings of that, pictures of that, if anybody's interested in seeing it. That's, I think, really going to be a lovely upgrade. So that's the same versus different. I also like to talk about reuse versus rebuild. We're going to reuse the altar, of course, the pews, as Father mentioned, the pulpit, and we're going to try to reuse as much other things as possible, such as the altar rail, choir, and organ enclosures, the reredos, which is the beautiful molding behind the altar, and other specialty woodwork. The fact is, we don't know if we can reuse a lot of that stuff because we don't really know what it's connected to. So for the first 2 weeks of the project, we're going to have finished carpenters in there gently trying to remove those beautiful pieces. And we'll do what we can. After the 2 weeks or whatever time it takes, we'll know what we're going to have to redo versus what we can reuse. Of course, the bells will be reused. They will be safe, removed and safely stored. Maybe one of them will be displayed for us to look at, and then replaced. Back in December, I gave a report to the vestry, and I summarized the bottom line then, saying there's a myriad of technical issues with pathways to solutions. So if asked to give you a bottom line today, I would say most technical issues have been resolved. However, the permitting process will drive our schedule. So that's kind of the 100,000 foot level. That's all I really have to say, and Father Edward and I would be happy to try to answer any other questions. I'd also like to recognize Mick Moore, who's sitting in our front row, and he chaired our resilience committee, did a super job, and has been very influential in the church, not only on the resilience committee, but many, many other leadership roles. Thank you.
Questions for John? Yes. Regarding zoning, is there anything we can do to help?
No.
No.
I mean,
If there is, we'll let you know. The truth of the permitting from my perspective, and I think we got a little bit of that at the Design Review Board, which is we're doing everything that the government really wants people to do in Naples. We all want structures that are more resilient. We want structures that are more resilient to water and to wind. And we're trying to do that. So that should help us, right? The reality of our church property across the way is that, and I'm sorry, I went out to, those were college care packages. We're sending to all the college kids. So I wanted to go out with the youth group and bless those. So I don't know if John mentioned this, but the codes have changed since the 1950s, right? We don't do things the same way we did when the church was built. So we do have to get a special use permit so that we can live or have the setbacks just right. Did you go into that or not really? I'm gonna go into it for a second. He doesn't want me to, but this is a piece of the wonderful work that John is doing. So the way the city planners have looked at our piece of property is they have seen a piece of property with 3 front sides. So a front on Galleon, a front on Treasure, and a front on Treasure. I think they're both Treasure on both sides, which means you have to have a setback of 40 feet from the front of the road. Right now, if you put 40 feet from the front of Treasure on either side of the church, it would run almost right through the middle of the church, meaning you couldn't build that. So that's where the city has to go through the process with us of saying, it's all within the current setbacks. Would you just let us rebuild the church? And that's where John is great with me and managing me, because I can get a little bit impatient about stuff like that. And he is great about saying permitting is a process, and you just got to work through it. So if there comes a time when, we need your voice to be heard as reasonable people, we'll certainly let you know. But truthfully, the people we have in place to guide us through the permitting process, they're all pros. And so the way I look at this, well, I don't look at it the same way John, but he coaches me to look at it differently. Again, it's a process that you just got to work through. Good? Yes.
Can you talk a little about fire safety in the
The only thing I can really say, not being an expert in fire safety, is that the current building, I know for a fact, is not sprinklered. The new building will have to be sprinklered. The new building will have to meet all current building code requirements for fire safety. And I'll just leave it at that, because quite honestly, the building code is extensive when it comes to not just fire safety, but all types of life safety issues, and we'll fully comply with those. But one big difference will be it'll be sprinklered. Yes, Catherine.
Father Edward or John, would you tell us, at one time we were thinking that the church and our use of the church would continue at least through the bishop's visit, which takes place after Easter. Will it continue now? You mentioned September, John. Will it continue now into the summer?
So the question at its root is, when do we move from the church to the parish hall? And Catherine has heard me talk about this a couple of different ways, and so I see where the question is coming from. The bishop will be with us for his regular visit, and we're going to blend into that visit a liturgy, a prayer, and the bishop and I haven't figured it out yet. But during his visit, we'll honor the building and the generations that have come before us in a way that makes sense. It'll be high season, well, not quite high season, but we'll still have the majority of the congregation. So the idea is we want to say goodbye to the walls that we've loved, right? And do that in a meaningful way that makes sense. Because places do have feels. You've heard me talk about thin places over the course of time, and that is a thin place for many of us. So how do we honor that? We'll definitely do something when the bishop is here. Will we do more? Yes, because it will make me very sad when we tear down that building. So thanks for the cheer jerker, Catherine. And I was mindful of that when we tore down the parish hall. I went through a similar mourning because I didn't want any of you all to see your buildings torn down. But we had to do it. And look at what happened, right? It was work that was worthwhile. And if we hadn't had this parish hall raised the way it was, we would not be in a place, Ian Milton, that we are. There is no way. And you think just about clergy burnout in that, brought that earlier. Clergy and staff can't make it through two disasters where everything is wiped away, right? We learned that in Katrina in the way the church looked at a lot of the priests on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So, yeah. Any other questions? We could end on a high note. I've got to go to church and be nice and friendly. Let me just end by saying thank you. Decisions like this in the life of the church, they're not easy, and they're not fun. And you all have done a really good job of asking questions and pushing back in ways that are respectful, mostly. But I realize, and I've said this, that it is a really emotional decision for all of us. You get hit in the stomach, and when people get hit in the heart, sometimes they lash out. But by and large, as a congregation, we've done this in a very slow, deliberate, thoughtful, prayerful way. And that is something that we can all be very proud of. So keep up the good work, and we'll make it through together. Sound good? Go get them, everybody.